As the world of gaming becomes more mainstream, the world of professional gaming or esports also becomes more visible. But if you notice, there's a big gap and often a hatred between sport lovers and esport lovers. Esport lovers claim that every pro tournament, such as League of Legends, Overwatch, PUBG, or Hearthstone, should be considered a sport, whereas fans of the Premier League, the NFL, or the NBA, they claim that video games are not a sport. As a collegiate athlete, video game lover, I'm going to talk about why Rocket League is helping bridge the gap between esports and regular sports, and why in fact it is the closest video game that comes to being a sport and not just an esport. The definition of a sport is as follows: an athletic activity requiring skill or physical prowess and often of a competitive nature. An esport is defined as a competitive tournament of video games, especially among professional gamers. Now, I come from a background where my cousin played in the NFL, my brother and dad played collegiate D1 football, and I currently play collegiate D1 soccer. I come from a very sport-centric background. I also come from a gaming background, where my first ever game was Mario Bros. On the original Nintendo. Now, I don't claim to be good at Rocket League. In fact, I'm pretty trash. I'm currently Diamond 3 for 2s and 3s and like something else for 1s. I don't know. But I love the pro scene, I love watching it, and I love learning more and more about Rocket League. And the more I practice, the more I learn that Rocket League is as close to a sport a video game has become, and here's why. I'm going to connect a lot of dots between Rocket League and soccer, as soccer is my quote-unquote expertise, and Rocket League is soccer with cars essentially, so there are some parallels between the two. Now, Rocket League requires some amount of technical ability. You don't just jump in and point and click on someone's head. You first need to learn how to boost, jump, and hit the ball. You then learn how to do aerials, fast aerials, air dribbles, backboard reads, ground dribbles, ceiling shots. There are so many skills in Rocket League that are able to be learned, and these skills take hours and hours to learn and even more hours to master in order for them to be effective in a game. Much like in real life sports, where you have to go out to the field and learn how to Cruyff turn, learn how to juggle, learn how to ping a 60-yard ball, it takes a lot of practice to the point it becomes muscle memory. Much like a regular sport, Rocket League requires you to go to the free training mode to master your technical ability. But that's not all. Rocket League is also a team sport, which is not unique to Rocket League as a lot of other games are team orientated, but what I mean is that you have a defensive shape or a rotation. If you watch any professional Rocket League match, you'll notice the announcers talk a lot about rotation. This means your defensive shape. A lot of times when a goal is scored is because the defensive shape or your rotation has broken down. You also have passing plays, where the three players pass infield to one another instead of just banging it off the back wall. Passing plays in Rocket League, much like the beloved tiki-taka of soccer, are plays that swiftly break down the defense and create some beautiful goals. A pinpoint pass could very well be the defense's demise. Finally, there is a rough outline of positions in Rocket League. Even though you're constantly rotating, you have your attacker, your midfielder, and your defender. Your defender, for some reason, can stop every single shot. Your midfielder, he creates every single chance you have, and your attacker, he finishes those chances that your midfielder creates. So even though you're rotating, you usually have a player that specializes in a particular part of the field. One thing I believe really pushes Rocket League towards a sport is its league and tournament play. RLCS, being the pro league for Rocket League, consists of league play in which the top two teams from North America and Europe auto-qualify for the World Championship. Teams 3 through 6 from league play go to regionals, in which they play for the 2 spots left in the World Championship, 2 spots for North America and 2 spots for Europe. The 2 teams who went to regionals and did not qualify for the World Championship stay at RLCS for next season. Now, the bottom 2 teams of RLCS league play will play against the top 2 teams from RLRS, which is the second league of Professional Rocket League, in a promotional playoff. In this promotional playoff, the 2 teams who do the best will play in next year's RLCS league, and the 2 worst teams will be relegated to the RLRS for next year. The Oceania region also has a league, in which the top 2 teams in their league automatically go to the World Championships. Besides league play, there are various tournaments throughout the year, such as DreamHack, E-League, and even the X Games. Rocket League was at the X Games last year in 2017, and the prize pool consisted of $75,000. ESPN even live streamed the Rocket League X Game event. And even though this isn't exclusive to Rocket League, it is still a big step to becoming a sport. Besides the large platforms that Rocket League is being shown on, such as ESPN, and being hosted at the X Games, they're gaining some substantial sponsors such as State Farm and Snickers. Players are also getting paid a large amount of money for what they do. For example, the top paid player, K-Dop, earns $81,000 from Rocket League. $75,000 of those dollars came from 2017. The stage in which players play and which announcers analyze the game is truly top notch and gets close to those of the real sports world, such as Fox Sports and ESPN. This isn't the only time that ESPN has covered Rocket League. Rocket League appeared on ESPN's Instagram page after an insane ceiling shot by Squishy Muffins during RLCS Season 4. This caused quite a controversy on ESPN's Instagram page, with a lot of people bantering back and forth on whether or not Rocket League was a sport. But the amount of views that the video received was unreal. I know other esports games have been listed on ESPN. In fact, I roasted ESPN for doing so. I still stand by that post today, because League of Legends is not a sport, and ESPN strictly covers sports. Rocket League is my only exception to that rule because of its sport-like nature that I've been talking about throughout this video. I'm a huge COD fan, I'm a big PUBG fan, Overwatch, Hearthstone, but if I saw those on ESPN, I would think it'd be completely ridiculous to have those on there because they are nowhere close to being a sport. But I digress. Now, what makes Rocket League so special that it gets an exception to this ESPN rule? And in my opinion, is that it's a sport in itself. It's not FIFA or Madden or 2K, which are simulations of a real life sport. It's not a war or shooting game such as COD or Overwatch. It's not a card game. It is in itself a game. It's not based in a fantasy world or anything like that. It's its own sport. It has its own set of rules, its own set of guidelines, and its own set of technical demands and mechanical abilities that one player must perform. You aren't simulating something that already exists. And I think that's what makes it push it towards the edge of being a sport, and why I think it sometimes deserves its place in a medium such as ESPN, SportsCenter, Fox Sports, whatever you may be. After all this jabber about why Rocket League is close to being a sport, I still think it's just close. It blurs the line of being a sport and being an esport. And the reason is there is no physical exhaustion in playing Rocket League. In real life sports, you feel physically exhausted after you play them. Unless you get a hand cramp in Rocket League, which rarely happens, I've had it once, you are not going to physically exert yourself while playing Rocket League. And that's what I think keeps it from being a real sport. I still love it. You should too. Let me know what you think down below.
Love is like schizophrenia, and I be like, don't know what to